Hello and welcome. Today, we're going to explore a skill that can really change how you think about your time and your work. Let's begin. So, I want you to think about the last time you said to yourself, "Oh, this will only take 15 minutes," right? And then, somehow, hours go by, and that one small task has taken up your entire night. That feeling, that gap between what you expected and what actually happened, that's exactly what we're going to work on today. So our first step is to learn how to make time visible. And to do that, we're going to break down a few key ideas that will help you build a much more realistic plan.
First up, what do we actually mean by time estimation? Well, it's about making a realistic prediction of how long something will take. And it has to be based on how your brain and your life actually work, not on wishful thinking. The goal isn't to be perfect. It's just to get a little closer to reality, so your plans don't keep falling apart.
So why are our estimates so often wrong? A huge part of the answer is something I call invisible time. This is all the time your brain and body spend around a task, not just the time you spend directly working on it.
So what does that look like? Well, it's the time it takes just to get set up. Logging into your computer, finding the right document. It's the little distractions, like glancing at a notification on your phone. It's having to go back and reread the directions because they didn't make sense the first time. Or it's just that recovery time your brain needs when it gets tired. If you ignore all this invisible time, your estimate is pretty much guaranteed to be wrong.
Now, this is a really important distinction. A time estimate is a prediction. It's you saying, I think this will take me about 25 minutes. But a time box is a decision. It's you saying, I'm going to work on this for 15 minutes, and then I'll stop or check in. An estimate helps you understand how big the task is. A time box, on the other hand, helps you protect your energy. Okay, let's start to put this into practice. If you could, please find your workbook page for this lesson and look for the While You Watch section.
I want you to take just a moment to write down your own definitions for time estimation and invisible time, based on what we've just talked about. Then, take a look at your own habits and check the boxes that apply to you. And finally, try to summarize the difference between an estimate and a time box in just one sentence.
Go ahead and pause here to fill out that section. When you're ready to continue, just press play. All right, welcome back. Now we're going to make this really practical. We'll walk through the Apply It section of your workbook together, one step at a time. First, think of one real task you actually have to do sometime soon, and write it down. Next, make your best guess. How many minutes do you think it will take? Now, let's account for that invisible time. I want you to add a buffer. Maybe 5, 10, or even 15 minutes. Let's make that invisible time visible. Look at the checklist on your page. Things like logging in, rereading directions, getting distracted. Check off the ones that usually happen to you when you do this type of task. Then answer that question at the bottom. Which invisible time hits you the most, and why? This is really important because you can't plan for something if you don't admit it's there.
A lot of students look at a big assignment and it feels like a giant wall. It seems impossible to start. So the key here is to break that wall down into smaller, more manageable bricks, or what we'll call chunks. Your goal is to break your task into 3 to 6 smaller pieces where each one feels like something you can actually begin.
So, in your workbook, write out what those chunks are. For example, maybe chunk 1, reread directions and find the rubric. Then, assign a small time box to each one, say 10 or 15 minutes. Now, here is the most important rule. You are allowed to stop when that time box ends, even if the chunk isn't totally finished. Now let's think strategically about your energy. Look at the chunks you just listed and figure out which one is the most difficult. Then, thinking back to our last lesson on your energy levels, schedule that difficult chunk for a time of day when you have your best energy. Finally, find 2 spots in your week to build in protected, non-negotiable time boxes. These are going to act like anchors for your whole schedule.
To finish up, let's do a quick check-in to see how this all connects back to your bigger system for focus and attention.
You see, when we underestimate how long things are going to take, we often end up in one of 2 places. We're either rushing and stressed out, a state we call overdrive, or we avoid the task completely because it feels too big, which we call drift. So take a moment to look at the list in your workbook. Which state do you usually slide into when an estimate goes wrong? What's your personal warning sign that tells you, uh-oh, I underestimated this again? Write that down. And finally, decide on your fix-it move for next time. What's one specific thing you'll try to do differently? Let's really lock in these key takeaways. First, remember that time estimation is a skill. It's something you can get better at with practice. Second, always plan for invisible time. Make it visible. Third, know the difference between your tools. Use estimates to plan your work, but use time boxes to protect your focus while you work. And finally, the best way to beat overwhelm is to chunk big tasks into small, startable pieces.
Okay, it's your turn now. Please take some time to finish the Lesson 2.3 page in your workbook. And please make sure to answer the reflection questions with a couple of honest sentences. That's what will really help you make this stick.
In our next lesson, we're going to zoom out a bit. You'll learn how to plan the next 4 or 5 weeks by thinking about them as heavy, normal, and light weeks. It's a way to plan your time that your energy can actually keep up with.